Anki is one of the most powerful tools for learning languages, but if used incorrectly, it can lead to burnout and overwhelm. My name is Jacob. I've been learning Tagalog for over a year now, and in this video, I'm going to share with you my technique for learning languages through Anki. So just for some background info, I started learning Tagalog through Anki on December 21st, 2023. For this whole streak here that I had, I was using Anki with pre-made flashcards, just translating from a target sentence into my native language, which is English. What I found is that this way of approaching it will lead to some bad habits that I will explain later. But first, let me just explain my technique. So I actually pulled this technique from a YouTuber named Will Hart. He is really great at what he does. He learned Mandarin in 2 years. So you can check out his video for more info. But I kind of approached this in a little bit different way. So what you will see here is that you have a main sentence here and a closed deletion, and it's all in Tagalog. It's all in the target language. And all I have to do is just recall the missing word in this sentence. So the answer for this is abala ako sa paghahanap buhay, kaya hindi ako nakakabisita sa inyo.
Abala ako sa paghahanap buhay, kaya hindi ako nakakabisita sa inyo.
And the reason why these flashcards are really great is because it gets you thinking in the language. It follows the comprehensible input hypothesis by Stephen Krashen. We acquire words through meaningful input. That is, when we have a sufficient level of understanding, that is when we can add new words on top of it, and not through direct translation. And that's how we actually learn things as babies. We are slowly stacking knowledge. We are slowly stacking context together. I actually wrote my own context here to help me remember what the word I am trying to recall here. So this says, kailangan niya ng pera, pero kinailangan niyang makita ang guro ng anak niya. Which basically means she needs money, but she needs to meet with the teacher of her child. And that helps me remember that this sentence that she is saying is, I was busy with searching for a means for life. That's why I wasn't able to meet with you. So that gets me to why translation-based flashcards aren't going to really be effective for you. And it's because flashcards have a purpose. Flashcards are meant to strengthen a one-to-one relationship between information. That's why there's a backside and a front side. So they have to be very focused. But the thing with translation-based flashcards is that you are connecting a target sentence with a translation. So you're not actually strengthening the meaning of a word, the usage of a word. You are strengthening a translation. So that's what I found myself doing. Every time I went into conversations or I heard words in my immersion, I would only understand words if I translated it first. I would hear a word, have to translate it, think about what I needed to say in response in English, and then translate that again into Tagalog, just so that I could keep a conversation going. And the problem with that is that it is mentally exhausting. You are using your working memory to translate things, to gain access to ideas, rather than thinking about the ideas themselves. Let me tell you something funny that I started realizing with myself. The better I got at Tagalog, I was actually getting worse at translation flashcards. Which is weird because wouldn't you expect that I would get better at these flashcards the better I got at the language? The reason why I was actually getting worse was because my brain was actually getting better at translating sentences. I was starting to understand all the nuances behind the grammar, all the cultural differences that weren't contained in translations alone. I would see a target sentence and then I could think of like 3 different ways to translate that into my native language, or vice versa. That ended up with me getting many cards wrong because I would think of the wrong translation. Even though I got the meaning right, I had the wrong wording. With flashcards, we want this one-to-one relationship, right? But translation themselves isn't actually one-to-one. So that means with translation, you are not actually fully pulling out the value of flashcards. The real value of flashcards is focused study, having repetition of things that you don't get to see in the real world as often. Another way to reiterate what I just said is that you practice how you play and you play as you practice. And that's basically saying that whatever you do in your practice, you are going to end up doing naturally in the real world when you're applying it. It's like how boxers, their workouts actually differ from bodybuilders. They're going to be focused more on power to strengthen their torque and strengthen their punches. Whereas a bodybuilder is more focused on like hypertrophy. With flashcards, you want to reinforce the things that you will actually use in the real world. So here's another example that I actually started to pull flashcards from my own life. I started to make flashcards from the things that my parents were saying around me. So right here, I have my parents cooking nalaga, and my mom is poking the meat to see if it's tender enough or if it's cooked through. And I heard my dad say, "Malambot na ba pag tinusok mo?" So the meaning of this sentence is it soft when you pierce it? Here's the advantage with this method is that it's not relying on any translation for me to gain access to this word, but it's relying on the very natural process of me learning words through immersion, through learning words through the context and in its actual use. So here's may dala pala akong kanin. May dala pala akong kanin. Paghiwalay na lang ng mga bata.
May dala nga pala akong kakanin. Pagatian nyo na lang ng mga bata.
Pagatian na lang ng mga bata. Okay, so actually, here you see a word where I actually forgot. And instead of just saying it's wrong right away, and what I would usually do is actually add more context to these words to make the recall easier. Because with flashcards, you don't want yourself to waste time racking your brain trying to remember words. So I don't know. Let's think about what context I could add here. So the meaning of this sentence is actually, I have brought some food, split it up amongst all the children. Okay, I actually cannot remember. I can't think of any context to reinforce this. So this is where I would usually actually go into ChatGPT context and make this sentence more understandable. So they helped me. So I had ChatGPT write me this sentence. Nagdala ng kanin ang isang ina para sa mga kaklase ng anak niya. So that means a mother brought rice for her child's classmates. As long as the context helps you, it doesn't really matter if it's perfect because you will improve it the next time you see it.
May dala nga pala akong kakanin. Pagatian nyo na lang ng mga bata.
So that was a good example of showing that context-driven flashcards actually allow you to use your creativity, allows you to interact with the language on a deeper level. You are able to add context that aids your understanding. Instead of translation-based flashcards, you were kind of just stuck with the same answer, the same question the whole time. You were stuck just memorizing instead of actually using the language in a meaningful way.
So, ito rin yung mga salot sa lipunan.
Ito rin yung mga salot sa lipunan. So, here's an example of me using more context that I just made up on my own. He's actually calling some people like the disease of society, the poison to society. In this sentence, he's not actually talking about epidemic like COVID-19. But I really wanted to narrow down on the epidemic meaning of the word salot. I thought of a very apparent example of a pandemic, and I'm using that as my own context for the word. So that also shows another way of how we can be more creative and use the language in our own way instead of being stuck in what is presented to us. I forgot to say the translation of this sentence. So it means the people that are spreading fake news are like the new COVID-19 in the world. So I actually have world to help me remember lipunan and bagong COVID-19 to help me remember salot.
Gusto na para suyuin yung girlfriend ko. Kailangan suyuin ko siya after this shit.
So the main point of this sentence is focusing on the idea of like wooing your girlfriend just to keep her with you, like having that feeling of that you really aren't being affectionate because you actually love her. You are actually being affectionate because you are trying to resolve a conflict or maintain a relationship, which is kind of toxic. Right here, I wrote in context as mapapagod ka kung nagpapanggap ka. So you will get tired if you are pretending. I actually did not know that suyo actually has very deep cultural connotations. The reason why this example shows that translation actually holds you back is because translation wouldn't be able to express the cultural understanding to understand this sentence. Doing like a malambing. Oh my gosh. It's actually hard. It also makes it harder because I did not experience any relationship where I did this. So suyuin or comes from the word suyo, which is kind of like being affectionate for your lover. And a lot of times it's used in examples where like the guy would hurt the feelings of the girl, and instead of just asking for forgiveness, he would also like buy flowers and be affectionate, gentle with her. That action, that outward action of love and kind of paying back is a form of suyo. All of that is just to say that context comes in many different forms. So you have the choice to have cultural context, personal context, context that would give a reason for what is being said, like a question or a statement, kind of like building a mini conversation in the flashcard. Dinadala mo ba ng past trauma mo sa relasyon? Tapos para lang ma-please ka bilang tao, no? Para lang maging masaya ka, maging panatag ka,
Tapos para lang ma-please ka bilang tao, no? Para lang maging masaya ka, maging panatag.
Kinailangan ko matapos ang unang relasyon ko sa kabila ng sakit. Unti-unti akong naging panatag at natutunan kong tanggapin ang lahat. So actually, here's another example where I created a new flashcard to help reinforce an old flashcard that I had. And it's like developing my own new personal context because I had not remembered it earlier. I had to end my first relationship, but instead of the pain, or despite the pain, I gradually became peaceful and I learned to accept everything. So that was my personal way of learning panatag. The context doesn't actually need to be completely comprehensible. And in fact, it's actually backwards. The things that are actually comprehensible to me is this. I actually do understand lumahok. It's not a word that comes up often, so I made that the focus of my flashcard. I'm not putting in things to memorize. I'm putting in things to save for my second brain. I'm putting in things to build these stacking contexts. Sorry, I feel like I didn't really explain my point well. What I really mean is that sometimes the main sentence in the card, where the closed deletion is, acts as context for other words. So that means the top sentence is actually something that I am also repping, but just not trying to remember actively. So hopefully you can see some ways that I was able to use flashcards. I know this video wasn't completely clear, so I'll hope to make some more videos, but I feel like I needed to get this one out just so I can get the ball rolling. If you have any ideas on how you guys use flashcards or ways that you guys can improve my technique, leave a comment below and subscribe if you want to follow me on my journey learning Tagalog.